Welcome to Brain Vision.
All right, so in this problem, we have two loops of wire carrying current. So we have this big outer loop of radius 0.25 meters, and then this small inner loop of radius 0.018 meters, so just 1.8 centimeters. And they're both carrying 7 amps, and we want to find what the torque on this little loop in the middle is. So we can set this up as the torque should just be the magnetic moment of the inner loop crossed with the magnetic field at that point. So they tell us, or they ask us rather, what simplifying assumption we make in this problem. And so that's a good hint that we should make one. And the magnetic field here seems like a good candidate for that. So normally we'd have to find what the magnetic field is over this whole varying range of where this little loop is. But we know at the middle of the big loop, the magnetic field should just be mu naught I over 2R1. And because this loop is so much bigger than the other one, it's more than 10 times its size, we can just treat the magnetic field then as being constant over the size of the loop. So the fact that they tell us to make an assumption is a good hint that that's what we should do. And then when this is so much larger, that's typically the kind of assumption you make. We're effectively treating this loop as being infinitely large, and then its magnetic field not varying over this small distance scale. So we've effectively then reduced the situation to just being some constant magnetic field, and then with this loop of wire in the middle of it. So we have our magnetic field. We just need to find now the magnetic moment. And so that is just the current times the area. And then the direction of that we find by the right-hand rule. So the current's going this way in the wire. So from the right-hand rule, we say A is pointing up. And we found the direction of the magnetic field in the same way, just from the right-hand rule of the current going around this loop. So we have our current, and then the area of our loop should be just pi and then R2 squared. And then this is in the y or the j hat direction. So then we can just say the torque is that value. So I pi R2 squared j hat, and then crossed with our magnetic field, which we're approximating as being constant at this point. So 2R1, and that was in the x hat direction. And now we can, I guess maybe the I hat direction rather, if we're using I and j. And so now we can evaluate that. So we just have a bunch of constants. We have a mu naught, and we have a pi, and we have an I squared, and we have that R2 squared, and then over 2R1. And then j and I we know is going to give us something in the k direction. And then again, by the right-hand rule, if we point our fingers in the I hat direction and curl them up into the j hat direction, we find our thumb has to point out of the page, and so that is negative in the k hat direction. So this whole thing is negative then. So this is our total torque, and they give us the values for all these things. So we know mu naught, and then I as 7 amps, and then we have R2 and R1. And so if we plug in those values, we should then get negative 1.3 times 10 to the minus 7th torque units, so Newton meters in the k hat direction.